Welcome to the Fatu Network News Review today, 14th of May 2019. My name is Omar Wali. There was a fire outbreak at Backwater Tipper Garage. We'll bring that story. And the tourism minister said sex tourism is not unique to only Gambia. We'll have that story as well. And government officials and officials from Department of Education held talks at Gambia College to resolve the strike, as well as we'll also be talking to Karamba Toure in the United States to discuss about the Gambia Armed Forces crusade to end rice importation in the country. But before all that, I will start with the papers, and Standard is reporting that Gambia will host 2021 OIC Summit. Government source, a senior government source has confirmed to Standard that the Gambia, through the support of powerful Islamic a senior government source has confirmed to the Standard that the Gambia, through support of the powerful Islamic African nations, has been given the all clear to host the 2021 OIC Summit following the decision to shift this year's edition to Saudi Arabia. According to the source, the hosting of OIC Summit is not a small feat, and it's rational between continents. This one scheduled to be the one that is scheduled for the Gambia this November was not just simply a Gambian event. It is also a turn of Africa. And so when it became clear that the country may not be ready to host this major event, the Gambia government went to a diplomatic onslaught, particularly on the African continent, to gather support for African members of the organizations to ensure that Africa and the Gambia, in this case, keep the hosting right for 2021 summit. This was necessary because there was no automatic guarantee that Africa will get the next summit. Again, it took some time to make headway because the top of the most important African Muslim nations such as Egypt, Sudan and Nigeria, etc., which are the big players in the OIC, were all engrossed in some domestic security or political turmoil. Government clarifies tax hikes on the alcohol beverages. The government spokesperson Ibrahim Sankare last evening issued a press release clarifying that the finance minister did not unilaterally impose the new taxes as been alleged. The statement reads, the Minister of Finance and Economic Affairs wished to inform the public that contrary to the widespread allegations and confusion surrounding the new excise tax on alcohol beverages, the tax is in fact part of the 2019 budget, and that the bill was appropriately tabled and debated before the National Assembly during the 2019 budget session. Therefore, the finance minister did not unilaterally impose the new tax being alleged because of the approval of the 2019 budget. And government vehicle policy under review. The Standard is also reporting that the Gambia government is currently reviewing its vehicle policy that was intended to reduce its fleet of vehicles. Finance Minister Mambu Renjai told journalists yesterday the vehicle policy was initiated by the former Finance Minister Amadou San and was presented to lawmakers who approved it. It was intended to reduce the large fleet of government vehicles and lay off drivers. And they also reporting that drug dealer pardoned by President Barrow slammed with 1 million fine and 10 years in jail. Magistrate Peter Chair of Brikama on Thursday sentenced Esa Jame to a mandatory jail term of 10 years with a fine of 1 million in default to serve 2 years in prison. He was found guilty of a single count of possession of 12 kilograms and 140 grams of marijuana for the purpose of trafficking. The Gambia Armed Forces to end rice importation to save over $48 million. The Gambia Armed Forces has announced that it is about to embark on a multi-million dollars agricultural project that will achieve the long-cherished ambition of ending rice importation in the country within the next 3 years. We will talk to somebody on that topic. And on the Point newspaper, Point is also reporting that government spends $48 million and on calf feedings. The Lamin K. Sanyan, the spokesperson of the Gambia Armed Forces, has stated that as part of the ongoing reforms and constitutional requirement, the Gambia Armed Forces is looking at diversification in its role and responsibility in order to reposition itself in the production sector of the country. The point is also reporting that IMF says Gambia economy is growing at 6.5%. Well, viewers, that's all we have for you on the papers, and we will look at the story. The officials of Gambia government were today involved in a closed-door meeting with lecturers and authorities of the Gambia College as the strike action called by lecturers in the said institution saw no sign of abating. Permanent Secretary of the Ministry of Education as well as senior officials of the Education Department were in talks with the striking lecturers as a way to bring a durable solution to the strike. The reason for this sit-down strike resolve around the demand for 50% salary increment of lecturers as well as timely payment of their salaries. Let's take a listen.
I can say almost now 3 weeks, the lecturers of the Gambia College are embarking on the sit-down strike, which they make a demand for that demand to be met by the right authority, that is the school administration, henceforth. According to what they said, I can quote from the chairperson of the Gambia College academic staff, Mr. Andrew Gomez, who affirmed to us that they are on the sit-down strike to demand for some of the things that they have said to be met as soon as possible. Among these demands that they have said, among them, one is they want the 50% increment, which all the government civil servants are benefiting. And the second one is the late the payment of their salaries, and also their April the salary was not paid, which they said it have to be paid on time. And I believe these are the three demands that they are advocating for the right authority, that is the school administration, to look into the matter and also to solve their problems amicably. We have been engaging the right authorities, starting from the Students' Union, that is the office here, also some of the main organizations and associations and some of the class reps to hear from their views. And also we have engaged the school administration. We have been working hand in glove with the Student Union of the school to ensure that the problems that we are facing here to be solved as soon as possible. And we have hindered our education system, and I believe this is something that is alarming and call for concern for the right authority, that is the government of the Gambia, to intervene and also to have consultation with the school administration in order to ensure that some of these problems to be solved as soon as possible.
And it has definitely affected us in terms of our learning because, as I rightly said, before, there is nowhere in this program that absenteeism is allowed for at least 1 week. And then now we have sat for 3 weeks without classes. Definitely that has really affected us, and then that is uncalled for. As a union, what we are trying to do in order to clear this situation is to make sure that we invite and then talk to the relevant stakeholders. The relevant stakeholders will not surpass the principal whom we have invited in a dialogue. We've also written to the permanent secretary of the state, the permanent secretary of the Ministry of Higher Education, and then, of course, all the relevant authorities that are needed in play to remediate the situation. And then, as I'm talking to you, I'm just from a meeting with the authorities, and then nothing is yet to be agreed on. But we are to go for the second phase of the meeting, and then I'm sure from there we'll be able to get something concrete.
The Gaitaf Special Economic Zone is a 160-hectare mixed-use business park strategically located within the boundaries of Banjul International Airport, the Gambia. It is the only economic zone located within an airport in West Africa. Gaitaf Special Economic.
A fire outbreak at Backwater on Monday destroyed properties worth thousands of dollars. The cause of the fire could not be immediately ascertained but eyewitnesses said it might be as a result of electrical sparks. More in this report.
A fire outbreak on Monday at Tipper Garage in Backwater led to the destruction of property worth thousands of dollars. Property perished in the inferno included motorbikes, Kitchenwares, mattresses, clothing, and the building housing the Nawek transformer was also engulfed by the blaze. The cause of the fire could not be ascertained. Witnesses say it broke out at around 2 p.m. and it took more than 2 hours to put off. When the Fatu network visited the scene, some of the materials were smoldering and the extent of the destruction could not be established. However, victims and eyewitnesses put it into thousands of dollars. Speaking to this medium, Musa Jite, a Backwater resident and one of the volunteers in the firefight, explained that today's inferno was unprecedented in the history of fire outbreak in the area.
Fenjamala kasarata jang sponsor image sponsor wolle newol mu nyidi teng sponsor bi jende no moto singol bete ma foko jaay baloto be jende no dol bi wol ka beltol wa fino different things solo wolle ka ftar faari jang yaay ci ma fonje so essentiel lo fela la ñu ko mo la teng essentiel fele teng so ñu dol mu rayda dira la lelti wol fana be jam ma fon la teng oda side la so dimbaji nak course mota explain no dol ko dingol le be non ko mo jang wolle amala war dingol be fit sot la ñaar la ñu non tilbula ba kanaka dimba amala jang anto dum malonde bot ndol botona na kana lan dimba nyin kana jubi am bina course but still now bi jang mo kuma kilimbu ka fo min ka fo je dol ko ñin transmitter jang wala amala wala spark something like that but we don't know what the cost costa min na molo but dimba nyi warta baba kale no sembo warta no kende ke faji be ba e kuran filol dol muta ay kundu dimbala malo la nyimbe kundu tangino.
Ibrahim Sala and Maudo Ba, both victims of the fire, lamented they have lost all their livelihoods as a result of the fire.
Safara bi dal dir bu mu také ba bala ñu ko fay dem na 3 hours yoy da waaw because safara bu metti la won because dafa am bagage yu nekkon suñu site ay spoñ la yoy ñoo jappal légui nak def nañ idea ba sonna mënuñ ko fay ku démé ni man ak ñeneen ñi ma dendol yépp suñu yaakar fi la ndax fi lañ dem frato ñi dundal suñu jabot té luma am yépp fofu la ko spend pour mëna am suma business mu dem ci kanam luma amon ci xaliss ma try ko jënd ko bagage pak ko lool yépp dal yépp ay yaxu dal.
All the victims that spoke to the Fatu network expressed sorrow and appealed for support to help them rebuild their lives. Fire and ambulance services has in the meantime come under a scathing attack for what many describe as their slow response to the incident.
Hey, what are you doing here?
I'm going to replace my AfriCell 3G SIM card.
Why use a 3G SIM card when you have a 4G phone? Replace your 3G SIM card today for the real AfriCell 4G SIM and receive 1 GB of internet data for free.
Really?
Yeah.
The Minister of Tourism and Culture, Hamad Ba, has called on journalists to protect the good image of the country rather than engaging in sensational reporting of issues concerning the country. He urged that some of the journalists in the country are in the habit of painting the country in a bad light, saying that the notion of Gambia as a sex tourist destination should be discarded. Mr. Ba said sex tourism is not unique to only Gambia, but it is a global phenomenon. Jaka Sise report.
The Minister of Tourism and Culture has said sex tourism is not only unique to the Gambia, adding that prostitution also exists in both Rome and Mecca. Tourism Minister Ahmad Ba made these assertions at a recent news conference at the Gambia Tourism and Hospitality Institute in Kanifing. According to Mr. Ba, prostitution is the oldest profession in the world and that the Gambia media should play a proactive role in dispelling popular belief that the Gambia is a sex tourist destination.
In making sure that the people, the world, focuses on Gambia. All the ills, what we are talked about, sex tourism and all the evil things. Unfortunately, some section of the press did not understand what was sex tourism. And they were made to believe to write very bad things about their country. And that made a serious damage to the industry. And I gave example where sex tourism. I don't need to go back to that because I don't need to create another debate in the world. But I can assure you that I said there is no sex tourism in the Gambia. Sex tourism is something that government sanctions, that is well organized, that is well managed. It's not in this country. Yes, prostitution is all over the world. You go to Rome, yes, there is. You go to Mecca, yes, there is. It's everywhere. It's the oldest profession. The relationship between a man and a woman, nobody can discard that. It's here to stay. Whether illegal or illegal, how it happens, whether attracted by means, money, whatever, it will always happen. So it's not unique to Gambia. So when I see journalists writing Gambia sex story, putting documentary, and you take them to court, they will lose the case. If you take any journalist who writes about the Gambia to court, you will be convicted. But this government does not want to take journalists to court. It is not our desire. But I want to advise you, please, when somebody comes to destroy your country and want you to write evil, we all love this country. All of you love the country. Because you are writing because you love the Gambia. Let's be cautious of what we write. It's very important. So one sentence you made damages this country. We went to a particular country during our effort to restore the Gambia. They said, we don't come to your country. Why? Because you have sex tourism. Do you realize that the last couple of years, there was no tourist coming with a family in the Gambia? You don't see children anymore. Because they felt that the country was sex tourism. It's just now that we've now revamped the country. Now you see children as tourists. It damages this country. So please, I want to appeal to you. You can write, it's your right to write, but it's also your responsibility to protect and preserve the supreme interests of your country.
Mr. Ba also lamented that 34% of the tourism development area has been leased by the former Gambian dictator Yahya Jammeh. This, he lamented, is militating against the tourism development endeavors in the country.
So when we came in, we also found that the government of the Gambia hired what we call PR companies, paying them thousands of pounds a month, millions from taxpayers' money. People who just sit there in Europe because you are a PR firm, make one letter, one note, and then every month you get 2,000, 6,000 pounds. A month, when Gambians were living on crumbs. This government made an end to that. We terminated all those contracts, and we recruited Gambians to go and do that job. We created what we call the destination managers, who were deployed to promote. Nobody can promote your country better than yourself. Nobody can know your country better than yourself. We believe it was important as a government to terminate those contracts and get our Gambian citizens to go and do it, and they are doing it fantastically well.
He enthused that the promotion of Gambia as a tourist resort is now under the purview of the Gambia Tourism Board, following what he called loss of millions of dollars to overseas public relations companies.
Hamad Bada, the tourism and culture minister, there talking to journalists, saying that they don't have a desire to send journalists to court, or it is not their desire to take journalists to court. The Minister of Tourism was speaking at a press conference, and he also said that sex tourism is not unique to Gambia, but it is a global phenomenon. And we will also be talking to someone to discuss about the crusade that the Gambia Armed Forces have embarked on to put a ban on the rice importation. Let's talk to Karamba on the line from United States. Hello, Karamba. Hello?
Yeah. Hello, Omar. I cannot hear you too much, though. I don't know if
Can you hear me now?
Okay. Yeah, it's a little bit better now. Yeah. How are you?
I'm doing well. How is Ramadan?
Alhamdulillah. We are proceeding pretty good, and it's a rainy day here today, so not too bad.
All right. The Gambia Armed Forces said they will embark on a massive crusade that will end rice importation, and it will save the country $48 million. What do you make of this decision taken by the Gambia Armed Forces?
Well, it is true that we spend entirely too much money importing food, and that is because we don't produce enough food to feed ourselves, and I think that is it's a grave problem for the country. And then the army is also right that they alone, as an institution, they spend 48 million importing rice. Now, having said all of that, I do not believe the Gambia National Army has the institutional capability, has the orientation, and has the ability to get into the food security business. I think this was a very, very, very bad idea, one that should not be pursued by the Gambian National Army at all, because you are talking about an institution that is very troubled. It is just emerging from, a 20-something-year-old dictatorship where the institution of the army itself was compromised, where its focus and its mission and its constitutional responsibilities were subjugated, and it was run as a personal fiefdom. That is why, when we brought in the new Gambia, the international community identified the army as a priority area that needs substantive and very deep reforms so that it can operate as a modern army that is functioning in a democratic society. I think this is why we have the United Nations and the EU and other agencies all putting up substantial amounts of money for the army to reorient itself, to reorganize itself, to properly train its people, and then to constitute modern leadership that understands national security, that is well trained, that is well disciplined, and that is subjecting itself to civilian control. So I think that is the focus where the army should be focused, and it is entirely not equipped to be in the food production business, and this is a bad idea.
Well, you said it's a bad idea, but the army is saying that they are trying to diversify. And secondly, it is not going to be only the military in the farms. You have the youth, you have the women, and this will certainly create employment for hundreds or if not thousands of people in this country.
Yeah, here is the problem with that argument, Omar. The army as an institution cannot do it. I am not disputing that food security is a huge priority. And it is a disgrace that as a government and as a nation, we are not recognizing that a country that cannot feed itself, and that we spend just on rice importation alone, we spend $90 million a year importing, rice from Asia, when we can produce all of the rice we need in our own country. But that is not a function of having the army do it. The army cannot do it. It doesn't have the people to do it. The ministry that is responsible for food security in that country is the Ministry of Agriculture. The Ministry of Agriculture and the Gambian people, as individual farmers, as commercial farmers that are properly resourced, are the people that can produce food security, not the Gambian National Army. This was just an arrangement where a former Gambian diplomat who was in South Africa decided to hook up with this agro-business company, and then they are talking about committing the country to a $125 million arrangement where the army is supposed to be doing this stuff. It makes no sense. If we want to secure our own food production, we need to fully resource the ministry that the Constitution mandates to be responsible, which is the Ministry of Agriculture. You notice this arrangement was done at the President's office. It is not an initiative that came from the Ministry of Agriculture. They just went over there and then they cooked it up, and then they said, oh, there we go. We're going to go with this company who we are told is supposed to be dealing with armies from Eritrea and Egypt. And these are not role models for our army. You do not want the Gambian army to be like the Egyptian army, where they are doubling in all kinds of industry, and then they are crowding out the private sector, and then they are just there interested in themselves. So I see this as an ill-advised scheme that is designed to use the army as a front to sell expensive equipment and services to the Gambian government by this for-profit company, and they are not telling you where the $125 million is going to come from.
Well, what they said, he said that their Southern African partner, AGCO Group, is set to invest in a whopping 120 million into the project. That the Southern African partner will spend 125 million US dollars.
Omar, this is a for-profit company. There is nothing like a free lunch. They are not going to come and invest $125 million of their own resources in the Gambia. They are simply not going to do that. What this is they are going to be coming to sell services and machinery using a government institution. That's what they are trying to do. And then what I am trying to tell you is if they want to invest that much in the agricultural infrastructure of the country, why didn't they go to the Ministry of Agriculture, who can mobilize hundreds of thousands of Gambians in an organized fashion? They have the expertise, they have the institutional memory, they have everything that you need for a successful agriculture. What they don't have is the resources. If the company is interested in providing resources to improve agriculture as a sector in the country, they needed to go and work with the Ministry of Agriculture, and the Ministry of Agriculture needs to plan and co-manage all agricultural enterprises in that country, and the army needs to focus on reforming itself to serve its constitutional mandate, which is to provide the national security of the country, to make sure that there is order, and then to be subordinate to civilian authorities on the roles that they are assigned. But they are not fulfilling their core mission. They have not fully reformed themselves. We just heard from testimony people that are serving in the army going before the commission and then telling them, look, my torturers and people that have murdered people, they are my supervisors. You know. But so I think this is not the right time to. I am for looking at other roles for the army down the road, but I don't want anybody parachuting $125 million so-called project and then using the army to implement it. It cannot do it. It doesn't have the people. It doesn't have the capacity. It doesn't have the training. What agricultural experts are in the Gambian National Army to manage a complicated arrangement such as this? It's not there. You know, but I think it's a bad idea, Omar.
But they have a focal person, and if the military command said, well, we have enough men and there is no security threats, why not? There is over 5,000 plots of land in CRR. Before sitting in the military barracks, why not we go and put it into good use? Is that not a good idea?
Because if you go to CRR and all parts of the Gambia, you will have lots of people who, if you give them input, you bring Ministry of Agriculture experts, you put infrastructure in, they can produce rice over there. You don't need the army to do that. Now, if you have 5,000 people in the army, you need to restructure that army and then make sure that their core mission, Omar, they are focusing on their core mission during this transition. At some point, you can carefully reform the army, maybe have strengthen their engineering unit, strengthen their medical unit, so that you can deploy them alongside civilian entities to help support that. But when it comes to food production, Gambian farmers are the only people that can feed the country. You are not. This is not Yaya Jammeh farms where you have a few men in uniforms and then they are kind of corralling hapless villagers and then saying, "Oh, you've got to go to Jahali Fajar and put them on TV." You are talking about a commitment that is huge, and you are bringing in a for-profit American company who is looking to sell you equipment and services at exorbitant prices. You have no capacity to manage this stuff. The Ministry of Agriculture is the constitutional entity that should design, implement, and execute all agriculture-related policies in that country. You don't want the army or the police or some other entity doing it. It's as simple as that.
Okay, but Mr. Ture, don't you also think that one might say you are unfair to the military? Because like I said, plots of land are sitting there, nobody's putting them into good use. And they said they want to move from the old tradition, not only providing security, defense of the country, but also to diversify animal husbandry and many other things. And people, and even those poor farmers, will also get employment and they will benefit from this project.
Yeah, but the army is not an employment agency. The army is a security outfit. That's what it is. If you want, I am from the rice growing part of the country. If you want rice to be produced, you're going to bring rice farmers, not soldiers. Especially at a time when our soldiers we need to train them, retrain them. These are remnants of a Yaya Jammeh system. They are not fully reformed, Omar. And then they don't have the capacity and the leadership mettle to fulfill their constitutional mandate at this point because they are in transition. They need to be reformed. It's not a properly led and a properly equipped and a properly resourced entity for its core function. And then while all of that is in flux, you are telling me it is a good idea to have them kind of just be used as patsies for a $125 million project that they have no capacity to implement. When you have a Ministry of Agriculture and you have hundreds of thousands of Gambian farmers that the Ministry of Agriculture can organize. The reason why those farms are lying down there fallow in CRR, North and South and other parts of the country is because the Gambia government has not affirmatively made food security and food production the priority that it needs to be. They give the Agriculture Ministry a pittance every year, Omar. The issue is the government is not properly resourcing the Ministry of Agriculture. We have all the experts we need. Some of the best agriculture people are Gambian. They are working as consultants in Sierra Leone and in other places where people are recognizing their talent. You need to bring them, make it a national priority, look for money and put it over there, and then put tens of thousands of farmers to work to produce rice so that we don't import rice. Let the army stay in the barracks, fix themselves up, reorganize themselves, have the proper leadership that is properly trained, that is modern, and then they recruit people, give them skills, focus on that first. And don't bring them into this food production because they can't do it. They are not going to be able to do it, Omar. You cannot tell me there are 5 experts in agriculture in the army. They don't have it. So how are they supposed to do it?
So now if they turn the coin, now the Ministry of Agriculture decide to take the front seat and the army want to follow, are you still opposing this idea that army should not be part of this thing?
What I want the Gambian National Army to do during this transition is to substantively and systematically reform itself so that it becomes a modern security outfit that is commensurate to how a military is supposed to function in a democracy. That is what the army is for. That's why you have all these UN and AU and everybody fronting in lots of money so that they are able to do that. They need to focus on that. Once we have that done and we have a good functioning army, then we can have long-term planning. For example, I favor strengthening their engineering unit so that they are able to do more construction. They can go into roads, and then you can train them to do bridges and things like that down the road. But even that, I'm going to put that on the front burner. What I want front-loaded is to restructure the army so that it is modern, it understands its role, and then it is given the equipment, and then all of the logistics it needs to function. We need to strengthen the Navy, because we are having people coming poaching on our coast. You need to spend money in that kind of a thing. That's where the priority for the army should be. Now, the highest priority for the country is food security. We need to invest billions in agriculture so that we can have tens or even hundreds of thousands of farmers working year-round, as opposed to 3 or 4 months of the rainy season. But that is a conversation and that is an action that the government has to do. The army has no role in that.
Okay.
I will not deploy the army to produce food for Gambians. No.
They should not produce food for the Gambia. Okay, but you also said like capacity. No. But looking at what they said here, this is an army that is growing over the years. Initially, although they don't have a military hospital, but according to the military spokesperson, they have 6 qualified medical doctors and a dentist, and 47 technos, 4 public health officers, 4 pharmacy technicians, and 10 lab technicians, and 2 X-ray technicians, specialists and consultants, and so on. This was not possible before, and it's happening now. So is that not also a transformation in the military, not to see only the negative side, but to know that the military also has been going through some transformation?
Omar, it is a good start. It is a good start to have 6 doctors and 40-something other people, but it's still minuscule. I am in favor of strengthening that medical component so that instead of having 6 doctors, they can expand it to have 20 doctors. That kind of an in-house strengthening of the institution they have within themselves is what all the reform is about, so that you can have a good medical corps and then they can be deployed to support the very few hospitals we have, or they can offer clinics and other specialized services within it. But then they have a core foundation in that one. They have no core, and then it is outside of any common sense to then say they have never done agriculture other than holding the flag for Yahya Jammeh so that he can wade into rice fields. You want to say they will manage a $125 million project whose financing we don't know from a for-profit company. You think this company is coming to Gambia because they care? They are coming down there, they want to cash out. You understand? The army is not equipped to do it. If the Gambia government wants to commit to an investment scope of this kind, if the agriculture ministry can get $125 million to work on projects, they will do a far better job, and then they will bring in Gambian farmers. They don't have thousands of people to manage within their own ministry. They will go directly to the farmers. If you want rice, Omar, you need to go and then put the irrigation infrastructure. You need to have pumps. You need to have agriculture extension workers. You need to have labs. You need to have people doing the field work. And then the farmers will come. There are people that are from this area, and then other people can come and join them and produce food.
Okay, I just got some information here.
The army for that?
You are saying that you'll go back to the barracks, but I've got a report now that somebody is saying that the military's intervention in agriculture is part of their constitutional mandate, Section 187, subsection 3. So this is also part of their mandate. They did not just jump and say we are going into farming, but it's part of their mandate that they can also go and intervene and stop in rice importation.
Okay, all right, Omar, even if it is part of their mandate, I am telling you they have no capacity to do it. It could be part of their mandate in theory. The Constitution is very pretty in all of the provisions it makes. They are not equipped to manage agriculture. They don't have the people. To manage a complicated agriculture project, you need agronomists, you need people who understand agricultural economics, you need people who understand the technology aspect of it, you need people who understand, you need soil scientists, you need water scientists, you need all of those people. Our Ministry of Agriculture has those personnel. Why would you just come and parachute into the military barracks and then cook up a project with a for-profit company, and then you want to stick it to the Gambian people and then say these people are going to be able to do it? They cannot do it. If I come down there and then snatch you from your anchor table there and then we go to Yundum Airport, you want to fly the plane, we are not coming to America. We're going to crash that plane because you do not know how to fly a plane. This capacity is not there. You do great interviews, but you are not a pilot. The army as it is needs to be reformed to where it can meet its core mission. That is the focus during the transition. And then try to strengthen the medical component. Instead of 6 doctors is nothing.
But yes, 6 doctors is nothing. But like I said, this is a military that is growing. This was not possible a few years ago. Now they have all these experts in place. And looking at, you talk about the capacity. We have seen PhD holders in our agricultural sector, and agriculture is still doomed.
Okay, that is a very fair observation, and I'll tell you why.
Okay.
Because we give agriculture a pittance. If you want food security, you have to look at the numbers, Omar. If we as a country, we are spending upwards of $90 million importing just rice. I'm not talking about potatoes. I mean, it's an embarrassment that we'll order potatoes from Holland. You know, you can grow potatoes in your garden, but you need to help people. Our farmers have no equipment. They don't have the level of extensive services that they need to get. They don't have any modern agricultural techniques. Even the way we do animal husbandry is outdated. You understand? We need to help the farmers with that. And with that, we need money. We need resources, and we need political leadership that says, look, it is not tolerable that Gambia cannot feed itself when we have all this land, all this water, and all these experts. I can tell you 20 agricultural experts that I know personally, who, when you give them the resources and the mandate, they can help with food security. That's what they do. They have the advanced degrees, and then they have 30, 25 years of experience. You understand? But you are not going to give Ministry of Agriculture a couple of $100 million every year in the budget, and you expect them to work miracle. But then you want to entrust the Gambian National Army that is emerging from the thumb of a brutal tyrant that needs to fix itself up. You want to say they can be custodians of a project that is scored at $120 million that the Agriculture Ministry did not put this together. The company just put it together, and then, you know, they took the army to State House, and then they said, this is what we want, and then it was done. Makes no sense, Omar. They are not supposed to be doing this. Later, let us work on the capacity, their health capacity and the engineering capacity. Let us strengthen our Navy so that we can protect our territorial waters, so that people don't come and scoop up all of our fish, because we have a few naval vessels. We don't have enough people there. we need to strengthen those core areas of the army. Get them to train more army doctors, more army nurses, more army pharmacists, and let them help support RBH and other clinics. That's fine. Help strengthen their engineering unit so that they can help with school construction or other stuff. That is fine. Those are core areas that is seeded in their institutional setup. We need to give them more money and more training and more orientation for them to grow those sectors. For agriculture, go to the Ministry of Agriculture, get them the resources. They have the people. Get them the resources, help Gambian farmers for them to bring food security and create year-round jobs. Because, Omar, this rainy season for 4 months is what is trapping our people in endless poverty. Because 4 months a year is not enough to sustain an agricultural economy. We need year-round agriculture. And to do that, you are not going to give the Ministry of Agriculture several $100 million a year. It's not enough. You need to substantially fund them and get the army out of it and then tell them, look, you got 5 years, we don't want to import any more rice. And then this is the roadmap. We're going to go there. Here is the money. Let's do it. And Gambian farmers are going to be willing to do that. If you go to CRR alone, we can produce all the rice we need in that country between CRR North and CRR South. There's no question about it. And you can do the same thing in URR and parts of LRR. You know, and we need to help farmers all the way to Nyomi. You know, cashews do very well in Nyomi. We need to do the horticulture thing in Combo big time. Not to just let the women struggle on their own for 40, 50 years, you know, and then bring it to the market. You need to help them. But that is a priority for the country. Leave these soldiers, a few thousand soldiers that need to reform itself. That's where their focus should be, Omar. Not kind of trying to be roped into this commercial arrangement that was done outside the back of the Ministry of Agriculture. They didn't put this together.
Thank you so much, Mr. Toure, for your time.
Thank you, Omar, for inviting me, and Ramadan Mubarak.
Ramadan Karim to you. Thank you so much. That is Karamba Toure there in the United States there. He is opposing the idea of Gambia Armed Forces to embark or to end rice importation. The military said the government will spend like or save $48 million here. And this thing also will, if it comes in place, it will create opportunities for both young men and women in the country. While we'll try to get one person on this issue as soon as he's... Hello?
Hello?
Yes. Yes, Banka. Banka, how are you doing? That's we have another caller there, Banka Mane.
I'm doing good, Omar. How are you?
I'm doing well. Karamba Toure is opposing the idea that, Karamba Toure is opposed to this idea that the Gambia Armed Forces doesn't have the capacity to, embark on such a crusade. What is your stand on this thing? The military said they have the capacity. They are working with the Ministry of Agriculture, and they have partners, and they can work. They have over 5,000 plots of land that within a few years, Gambia will stop importing rice.
Mm-hmm.
What is your take on this thing?
No, I think Karamba was absolutely right as far as his opposition to this idea of using the Gambian National Army to get into this farming scheme. You see, the way to look at this is to make sure that we study the army carefully and understand what the mandate of the army is and what it needs to be. The idea that you can start to kind of reinvent the army into this sort of agricultural machine is the most ridiculous policy idea I have ever heard, because this doesn't make any sense. When it comes to agriculture and food sufficiency, and to make sure that we build a country that can be able to feed itself, you can only do that through the private sector. There is a reason for that, because the private sector, you have, in the Gambia's case especially, we have farmers who are excited about farming. Our mothers, our fathers, our uncles, our brothers, our sisters are out there. Most of them, all they have on all their lives is farming. They just need the needed support and the technical skills and the wherewithal and the capitals, the capital to actually also be able to do farming on a large scale. This is all we need. If you go to the CRR, as Karamba was saying, or URR, or any of those areas, And even in the combos now, land is lacking in the combos now for large-scale farming. But when you go to the Kiangs and the Nyomis, you still can find huge areas of swaths of land over there that really can be used to, help actually empower the farmers to be able to do this large-scale farming that we all talking about. Let's talk about the army for a minute here, because this is where the problem really is. When it comes to the army, the Gambian National Army needs to go back to what armies are meant for. If you look all around the world, Omar, armies actually are for a set of reasons. One, obviously, is to protect the territorial integrity of the country, and obviously national security and all these things. But the other thing that countries have countries have devised to really make the army to the kind of vehicle that it needs to be, as far as helping with developing the country, is to use it as a place, incubation spot for young people to bring them in, train them, make them into professionals, and then unleash them into society. This is what armies are meant for. In the Gambia, back in the days when the British were there, we used to have what we call the Pioneer Unit, PU, and it was located in Farafenni. PU was mainly training soldiers. When they come in, some became engineers, some became, I can talk about many trades, carpenters and all these things. These guys were trained to become professionals. And so that when you leave the army, you can actually, you have a skill that you can, a transferable skill, a skill you can take out there and then start your own business or go get a good job and be able to take care of your family. In the Gambia, unfortunately, we don't have that. All we have there is a bunch of soldiers sitting at the military camp, literally doing nothing. Well, at the end of the day, all we use them is when there is something, we grab all these guys and send them there without even the prerequisite skills to be able to deal with national security emergency issues. And this is why these armies are easily used for all kinds of serious crimes against Gambian people.
Okay,
because
I can see that most of your argument is that because the army, you accuse them of not being part of or was involved in some of dubious things, whatever you call it, during the previous regime. But should you use that to still whip them because of that? And secondly, this is part of their mandate. And like you said, the army is not only there to provide security. We have seen how military contributed in other countries. When there is flood, when there is cyclone, when there is typhoon, when there is tsunami, and so on. These are the people who will come. And looking at...
But let me jump in there, though. You've just said it. That's what the army, you know why those armies are used like that? Because they have the skills. Most of those guys that you see in those flood regions and all, they are engineers, they are environmental scientists, they are all these skills that I was talking about. These are not just regular soldiers that they just grab and just throw everywhere. No. These are guys that actually are trained to actually deal with those national emergency issues, not just acting as soldiers, as in the real term soldiers. But they were educated in these fields so that when there is a flood, they know exactly what to do. When there is any national emergency, they know exactly how to, because these are, those guys that you see in those flood regions, trust me, you ask them, these are guys who understand floods, they are engineers, they are all these things that we talked about earlier.
Banker,
this is what you use armies for.
Is it not time for Gambians to give or recognize or encourage the military? Now that you have given them a mandate, but they said part of their mandate is to venture into agriculture. Instead of condemning them or saying that they don't have the capacity, why not we see how best to encourage them to achieve this goal?
Well, in fact, what we are doing is the criticism of this whole franchise or this whole approach is to help the army. We are, in fact, on the army side on this because the army should not be used like this. It is going to be underutilized.
But it seems you are only you're not giving any genuine... okay.
This is all about priorities, Omar. It's all about priorities. Where are we putting the priority? The priority for the Gambian National Army needs to be put into training those soldiers to become engineers, to become medical doctors, to become carpenters, to become entrepreneurs, to become, I can go on and on and on about all those transferable skills that they will need when they leave the army. These guys are not supposed to, they are not meant to stay in the army for the rest of their lives. If they choose to do that, that's fine too. But what I'm saying is, most of these guys have dreams and aspirations like you and I. Most of these guys have aims and ambitions, big aims and ambitions. And so for that matter, when they come into the army, what our role should be is to make sure that we give them the requisite skills so that they can be able to survive outside the army. This should be the goal. But to turn them into these agriculture machines to go and work on farms and all these jobs. I mean, at the end of the day, is that what they really truly signed up for? No. So this is actually to prioritize the Army's role and skills and what they need to be doing rather than what they should not be doing. So
but are you afraid with the Gambian army? Because we have seen they build a university in Faraba, we have seen engineers, doctors, nurses, and even people studying aeronautics in the army. This is a different one.
What is so different about it? Because in the we have about 2,000 soldiers in the Gambia National Army, maybe more than that now. What I am saying is, those 2,000 soldiers, if you go and ask them today, how many of them have been trained in any field that is in a skill that is transferable outside the Gambia National Army? I bet you 90% of them don't have any of those kinds of trainings. And so to go and tell those guys, look, at the end of the day, we are not going to send you all to the farm to go and work on the farm. It's really, I mean, that's not what they are meant to, because our farming processes have to become mechanized. The only way we can have food security in that country is to mechanize our farming process. That is, bring machines, be able to build machines in the Gambia, or at least bring in the right machines to be able to do large-scale farming, so we can be able to feed the whole entire country.
But you don't need to be a rocket scientist to venture into agriculture, and they have a focal person. They are working with Minister of Agriculture and so on.
No, but the Ministry of Agriculture, when we talk about Gambian National Army be used for this or for that, all I am hearing is you're going to send a bunch of soldiers into the rice fields to go and do rice work. That's what I'm hearing. Oh, man, let's put this into its right context. That's exactly what you're going to grab hundreds or thousands, just like Yajame used to do, that bring ferry in a bunch of soldiers to come and bend down and do labor work on these farms for a whole day. Literally, that's what is going to be happening here. What we are saying is the army is not supposed to be utilized like that. It's not supposed to be used like that. What needs to happen is, to bring about food security in that country, we need to prioritize, make sure we mechanize the farming process so that we can feed the whole entire country. It's only through mechanized farming that we can be able to feed that whole country. As for the army, don't take the soldiers to the rice fields and use them there and so to bend down and do labor work all day.
Are you not emotional here? This is not army. The army did not say.
Sorry?
I said the army did not say, like you said, Jamie, these are not working for an individual. Over 1,000 men will be there. You have over another youth and women also will work for this thing. A government will save $48 million. Is that a good idea? Why don't you just encourage or look into other ways than...
These guys are going to be going to do some back-breaking jobs on the farms without being... What needs to happen is to take these guys and sit them in classrooms, take them to skill centers, and teach them all the transferable skills that they need to learn, so that when they leave the army, they can start their own businesses, they can become entrepreneurs, they can be able to work in companies and bring with them skills that the companies can be able to hire them. That's what needs to happen. As for our farming, if we want to feed the whole country and even the army itself, let's bring in the right machines, bring in the right experts, let's mechanize our farming processes, let's bring in the right ideas, and let's do this on a large scale so that we can feed the whole country. What we are saying here is you have priorities that have run amok. These guys don't understand what they are doing. They are not prioritizing these things correctly, and they are underutilizing an army and a bunch of young, vibrant, educated, smart people who could have the prerequisite skills and education to be able to survive outside the Gambia National Army. This is what needs to happen. If we don't do that, we are just basically, I mean, it doesn't even make sense to really think that in the 21st century, back-breaking hard labor is the way to bring about food security. It's not going to happen. We have to bring in machines. I don't care where we get them from, but we got to bring in big machines, and let's give the private industry the ability to be able to pop into this sector and do what it needs to do. Because private companies, private individuals, if they have the right support from the Gambia government, they can be able to bring about the food security in their country, because they can at least prioritize correctly and not think on these short-term goals like bringing a bunch of people to do back-breaking labor. They will bring in the right machine. Our mothers, our fathers are ready to get into farming. Let's teach them the skills. Let's bring them the machines, and let's bring the private sector to come and work with them, hand in glove as a partnership, and let them produce the needed food in that country. Not to underutilize our army. This is what is happening here, Omar. We are underutilizing this army. These young army soldiers that we have over there, like I told you before, they are just like you and I. They are smart. They want to be educated. They want to have the right skills. They want to be able to go out there and do some big things. Being in that army and then using them on rice fields to do back-breaking, hard labor is not what they signed up for, and I don't think they could choose, because most of these guys are going to be asked to go to the farm and they will just show up because it's a command process. But what I'm saying is, if they could choose, they would rather go out there and learn the needed skills that they use when they get out of the army, rather than going to a farm and doing back-breaking labor.
Okay, Banka, you stay on the line. The military spokesperson just called in now. Hello?
Sorry?
I said I have the army spokesperson is on the line now. He's just called me on my phone now. Hello?
Very good. I'm glad you have. I hope I can hear him when he speaks.
Yeah, you are live on the part1 network.
I'm just monitoring your discussion with these gentlemen from the other end.
Yes, Banka or...
Like they don't have, both of them, it seems like they don't have the adequate amount of information, or they don't want to just listen to whatever you are telling them.
Okay.
Because you are talking about the Constitution, that our mandate is from the Constitution. So if they are going about condemning us, I think they have problems to do with the Constitution, not with us. The Constitution mandated us. In the past, you know, some of our members were involved in some human rights. Hello?
Yes, I can hear you. Carry on, carry on.
You know, in the past 22 years, you know, people have condemned us for our members involving in human rights atrocities here and there, you know, committing illegal acts. Yes. Now here we are in the new dispensation, going by the Constitution, doing things that are, you know, mandated by the Constitution legally, and we are being condemned again. So what's going on? I just don't get it. So this ARCO group, when they came, this thing was on GRTS TV. It was online. And we had the Ministry of Agriculture was represented by their permanent secretary. Local government and lands was represented because we know we need the land. Finance was represented. And this was before the president. So I don't think there is anything shady or murky about this, that people are making all these kind of, you know, building castles in the air. I just don't get it.
Okay, Piero.
ARCO's contribution in this is that they will bring in the equipment and the machines. So if we're talking about mechanized farming, you know, we have all that we need. All that we need is the support and the blessing of the Gambian people. Then, you know, people talking about all these things, you know, making themselves experts. The situation in the Gambia armed forces is not like the Sierra Leone or Liberian side, where we had a total collapse of the security system. The army was intact. The police, you know, the internal security system was intact. So, I don't know. I don't just get it.
Okay, Piero, you say, Banka, you heard what the military Piero said. He was reiterating what I said, that they have the mandate. And even though some of their men were involved in human rights violations, but it's like a cow doesn't have it has a teeth, but it eats grass, and a hen doesn't have a teeth, but it swallows pebbles, but yet still complain of not having teeth. They were involved in this. They were
But Omar, we are not talking about the human rights issue here. Let's not make this about the army's human rights issues. I've gone past that right now. All we are saying is, we are looking at this policy here as far as trying to use the army to go out there and do back-breaking labor on a farm, on a rice field to produce quote-unquote rice.
Yes, you are talking, but the military is saying it is part of their mandate to embark on such a crusade.
We are proudly doing it in fact.
Well, but that's what I'm saying. But Omar, if it is part of their mandate, they need to revise their mandate and make their mandate about skills training, giving the soldiers the right prerequisite skills to be able to go out there when they leave the army, the skill that they can use to be able to develop themselves and do some big things. That's what the army's mandate ought to be. To sit here and say, oh, this is our mandate, so we can do it. Mandates can change. Mandates are not set in stone. They are not the Quran or the Bible. They can be changed. What we are saying is the army needs to reprioritize. Instead of using these young soldiers on these farms and using them for back-breaking labor on the rice fields, let them go ahead and take build skill centers and bring them into those classrooms, teach them the prerequisite skills that they can transfer when they leave the army. That's all we are saying. Now, to sit here and harp on this issue that, well, we have the mandate so we can do whatever we want. I mean, just having the mandate, is that they're giving them the prerequisite skills that they can transfer, that are transferable after the army? Is that not part of their mandate also? I would believe that's part of their mandate also.
Piero, you had these two people. But like the saying goes, if you listen to the noise of the market, you won't buy anything. Are you going to heed to these people, or you are going ahead with your crusade?